Good morning. This is Boyd Delonzo with this week's report from Iraq. On Wednesday, a Marine CH-46 C-9 transport helicopter crashed into an open field in the insurgent-dominated region northwest of Baghdad, killing 5 Marines and 2 Navy medics. Pentagon officials initially said that a mechanical failure was to blame, but a video later emerged showing a missile-like projectile striking the craft seconds before it came crashing to the ground. A military group called the Islamic State of Iraq posted the video online and claimed responsibility for the attack. The downing of the CH-46 C-9 makes it the 6th helicopter to have gone down in Iraq in the last 3 weeks. 4 of the 6 have been brought down by enemy fire. Since 2003, 54 helicopters have been brought down in Iraq, 28 of them reported to have been shot down. The increased targeting of American helicopters by insurgency forces is beginning to worry officials at the highest levels of the Pentagon. Major General William Caldwell had this to say on the subject.
There's been an ongoing effort ever since we've been here to target our helicopters. Obviously, based on what we have seen, we are already making adjustments in our tactics and techniques and procedures as to how we employ our helicopters in support of Iraqi security forces and coalition forces, and are making those appropriate changes.
The escalating level of violence in Iraq has increased the number of IED attacks on military convoys. In response, the military has been relying on helicopters to perform everyday duties usually reserved for ground transport. These duties include delivering ammunition and basic supplies to units in the field, ferrying troops across the country, evacuating casualties, and providing support to ground units attacking insurgent positions. The heavy reliance on these crafts has made the vulnerability of the U.S. helicopter fleet become the Achilles heel of the American military in Iraq. The 4 helicopters that were shot down in the last few weeks were shot down by both small arms fire and shoulder-fired missiles. This recent evidence has demonstrated that insurgents are becoming more successful at downing U.S. helicopters by implementing new strategies along with more sophisticated weaponry. To counter this threat, the military will have to develop new tactics and technologies to prevent any further losses to its helicopter fleet. The military has already begun to add armor to crafts like the Black Hawk helicopter. Armor shielding has been added to the crew seats and critical engine components, and they've even fitted some of the Black Hawks with ballistic blankets around vulnerable parts of the fuselage. This will give additional protection against small arms fire, but will do nothing against an attack from a shoulder-fire missile. Most shoulder-fire missiles are heat-seeking, so most helicopter crews dispense white-hot flares automatically in hot zones to throw off the targeting from an incoming missile. Helicopter crews also fly at low altitudes when they believe the danger from a shoulder-fire missile is great in an area. They also do the exact opposite when they believe the danger is greater from small arms fire. The new problem is that new missile systems are appearing in Iraq that have laser targeting as opposed to the traditional heat-seeking targeting. This destroys the most effective countermeasures that crafts have. The Pentagon is trying to develop a new technology to counter this new threat. The new technology is called laser jamhead, and its function is to scramble the targeting system of a missile. The Pentagon has not said when this new technology will be ready for use in the field, so until then, the same old tactics used from Vietnam with some additional 21st century twists will have to solely counter this growing threat. Thousands of shoulder-fire missiles are readily available in the black market. They can range in price from $1,000 to $100,000 US. Most concerning, they are portable, easy to conceal, simple to use, and deadly. An insurgent can easily be trained to use one in a matter of minutes. It also appears that there is no shortage of cash to buy such weaponry. Insurgents are raising tens of millions of dollars from all sorts of black market activities, including the lucrative and notorious business of kidnapping. There are confirmed and unconfirmed cases of foreign governments paying millions of dollars for the release of their nationals, but most kidnapping cases involve fellow Iraqis. The other source of insurgent funding is believed to be coming from wealthy private citizens and governments across the Middle East. While the Iranian government has been training and funding Shiite militias, recent reports also reveal that Saudi Arabia has been supplying funds to Sunni insurgent groups in Iraq. In a series of interviews with the Associated Press, several truck drivers said they delivered boxes of cash from Saudi Arabia destined for anti-coalition insurgent groups in Iraq. Iraqi officials say that this inflow of cash is being used to buy all sorts of weapons, including shoulder-fire missiles. In one recent case, $25 million from Saudi sponsors went to a top Iraqi Sunni cleric and was used to buy weapons, including a Russian-made shoulder-fired SA-7. The Saudi Arabian government consistently denies such reports. even after the Iraq Study Group concluded that Saudis are an important source of funding for Sunni Arab insurgents. The U.S. has little hope of stopping such cash flows to insurgents considering the current geopolitical situation in the Middle East. The increased polarization of the region between Sunni and Shiite is centered on the Iraqi civil war and Iran's growing influence in the region, with the future balance of power hinging on the future outcome in Iraq. The U.S. cannot put pressure on the Saudi government because it is a vital ally in confronting Iranian power, controlling oil prices, and keeping the more radical elements of Saudi Arabian society from gaining power. Additionally, the fact that the Bush administration's Middle East policy consists of refusing to talk to some of the region's key players severely constrains the possibility of reaching a political settlement on any issue in Iraq, including outside funding to sectarian militia groups. The only hope that remains is that the president's new security plan for Baghdad will succeed, despite increasing skepticism that it will fail before it even begins. Opponents of the president's plan fear that all this escalation will succeed in doing is to create more targets for the insurgency and widen an already brutal sectarian civil war. History often repeats itself, yet the collective American memory is shorter than most other nations. For it was only 2 decades ago when the CIA was giving shoulder-fire missiles to the Mujahideen fighting against the Soviet invasion in Afghanistan. The Soviets depended as much on their helicopter fleet in Afghanistan as the U.S. did in Vietnam, and soon the same as the U.S. does in Iraq. Yet this single weapon was largely responsible for destroying hundreds of Soviet aircraft, forcing it to eventually withdraw from Afghanistan. If the U.S. wishes to avoid a similar fate, then it should learn from the past before it becomes destined to repeat it.